Hello, welcome back to Seawolf's Den. I'm Crafting Ron. I've got a major idea and a major craft, a major project to do, and it involves these Star Wars toy parts. I'm going to run an adventure for the next convention I'm doing, and it involves a crashed colony ship. I want to create a crashed colony ship out of these two things that I recently got. See a previous video on that. I have an unboxing for this, a pod, which I've already taken out the landing gear. And what I'm going to end up doing is, and for right now, I'm going to do that. I'm going to put these together like that and glue it. Now, I don't know how they're going to stay together, but one way or another, I'm going to put these together and start. So what I'm going to do is I got to create a crash ship. First, I got to create the ship. So I'm going to create a whole ship out of what this is. And I'm going to put something in there, put something in there. I got to put these back together. And then cover up every hole with something, maybe a cardboard or something else. I'm hoping plastic, if I can find some plastic to cover. So I want to make this the bridge. And I'll cover this up, maybe put some engines on there and cover up these holes with something and make it one piece and then break it apart. Not really break it apart, because my idea is to have it crash like this into some foam terrain. So I'm more likely going to cut this part off and look like it dragged apart, and maybe leave this behind on the piece of terrain. It's going to be a big giant scatter terrain, if you know what I mean. It's going to be pretty large. I don't know if you can call it scatter terrain if it's that big, but first this has got to go back together, which I took apart to clean it, and I need to wash. I got to wash this one, but that's my plan. Start like this, and then it's going to crash, and I'm going to put cut damage into it. Have other parts kind of laying out. I think I'm going to use one other. My escape pod idea is going to be another piece to this. The escape pod will probably, I'm going to make it look like it was there and it's gone, and I'm going to have damage and stuff coming off the bottom of this. And then the escape pod is going to be another scatter terrain somewhere else. So, which is going to be something I've already started and started a video on, which will be this. Okay, so that is the plan. All right. These are together. I'm taking the landing gear off. Wash this, taking the stickers off. I've got a mark here that I'm going to create a slot for this to fit in, and then we'll do the other one. So, Star Wars toy collectors, look away. Okay, so what I did was I started out with the blade, circular blade, and then used another tool to get the hole. That's perfect. Now I just gotta line this up with this and get the other one cut. Okay. The next thing I'm gonna do, I'm going to go outside, probably bring the camera with me, and I'm going to start the terrain where this is going. I've got a solid idea for what to do with that, and I've got a perfect piece of foam for the central part of it. This is a mistake I made some time ago, and it's a perfect for a crash site. Appears to be some stuff in there. Maybe a support that I didn't know was going to be there. It's in there. Ta-da. Worked. So I don't have to be too clean about this. So I'll use my E6000. bought this. I bought a 6000 in the wrong bottle. If you hear my wife in the background, it's because she's watching basketball, college basketball, and passionate about it. Okay, let that glue. Doesn't have to be perfect. Went through a change in design, which is quite often happens with me. I don't script these things. I don't have plans. I just kind of do what I think will work, and then if it doesn't, then I try something else. And in this case, that's what's happening here. Glue is not going to be enough to hold this thing up here. Glue is just not going to be enough. It's holding now, and there's a reason for it. I literally bolted them together. I had a ton of bolts left over from a jungle gym my kids used to have. There's some. Those were too short. And so it's just a lesson of always keep your widgets. It's a term from my father. Always keep your widgets. You never know when you're gonna use them. And this one, this is a bolt from the jungle gym, and then I fed it in through there. And I saw this space. If I could find a washer wide enough, you could hold the rest of the B-wing part. Now, I just had to find a bolt long enough, and I added washers to make it work. Kind of hard to see, but that will be covered up. Anyway, it added a little weight to it. It's not perfectly centered, but it's close. It's close. I could probably shift it a little bit, although the glue is now completely settled. I'm not really caring. This doesn't, like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect, because I'm going to have it I'm going to crash this way. So this is going to cut off. I'm going to spend a lot of time using a heat gun to bend the metal, or make it look like bent metal, and damage. So like I'll cut this off and then cut it up and then heat it and bend it back. Plan is to cover these up to make them look like either a bridge, and I may just paint these, or I may Dremel them and give them windows. I don't know. That's a perfect window right there. It's a perfect window. I could cut right around there and it'd be just fine. And then put a piece of plastic over top of it. But I've got plans for how to cover this up, The little things I can do 40K bits. The big things like this and these, and down here even, it's gonna take a little bit more work. I'm gonna use like dowels to cover this up right there. I'm gonna try my hand at polystyrene sheets. I've never done this. I've had some before, and I used them for something else, or maybe threw them away, I don't know. This is 0.2 inch polystyrene I got to the hobby store. It's like 3 sheets. That's enough. 3 or 4 sheets. 3 sheets. 3 sheets. And I can cut out a piece to cover that up. Maybe inset it and just let that be something else. Maybe put some 40K bits on the outside of it and give it a good texture. That's perfect. That's really good plastic. I'm going to try my hand at and cut pieces too. I may just set it inside there and make this like a docking bay or a cargo bay. But I had thoughts about that too, because this is going to be a crashed colony ship. And at first you're like, how is this a colony ship? So those are going to be the main compartments, and it flies like that. It flies straight up and down. And I have to put some thought into it to make it, justify all the work I'm going to do to it and make it believable in my game. I'm imagining, I've shown these before, but I have several of these, and like little containers. I'm picturing like a means to attach these along the side of it. And those are your colony cargo. I'm gonna go down like this, all the way down, and maybe I'll place or build or design some kind of, maybe it's just on the wing. Maybe on this part of the wing, just 1, 2, 3 on each side, and put along here a means to hold this. This will be covered up, like an attachment type apparatus to where all the cargo will stay, and that's on the outside. And then when it crashes, these are just going to be tossed out along the crash site. And so this could be a small shuttle bay, although I really can't imagine much more than a pod coming out of here, which I think that's all you need. A couple pods come out of here to unload and bring it down. So that's probably what I'm going to do is make this kind of a small docking bay for small pods that come out to transport these down to the surface. This is probably built in space and never has been in any other place. It has never landed because it can't. So it relies on the pods. This is the old battery compartment, so I'll have to cover that up. Like I said, I'm gonna get some dowels and just cut some dowels and stick right there. Cover that up with something, maybe just a piece of plastic. I might have something big enough to cover that. That's a 40K bit. If not, we'll figure something out. And so, but the bolt will get covered up with something else. I'll put something over that so it doesn't show. But I was just looking at as it was gluing, and I could just tell that it was not going to hold. And the more I held it, it just was not going to hold. I looked down inside there. I really can see this washer. The bottom washer was wide enough to hit on a lip of plastic that's there. All I had to do was stick a bolt through it and tighten it, and it held pretty tightly. So now it's one piece. I'm going to slowly build off of this and then eventually add damage to it, and then we will have wreckage for a crash site. All right, so we shall continue with that end. This is that piece I was talking about. I kind of made a mistake. I was building a fort to scale, and I realized I was doing it in the wrong scale. That's why another piece is out of it. So I'll use foam cutters to create this V-shaped crash site. It'll be off this side, and it'll be this. It'll be significantly changed to what you see here, and it's just going to look like a mound of dirt as something dragged across it. The ship's going to sit up here. The one piece is going to roll over to the other side. This is where the project kind of went sideways. The base I used for the terrain was not good. It's too big, too flexible, and it wouldn't hold the foam down. So I went a different direction after doing all this work. However, I did use this wood for smaller scatter terrain with trees and some stones to add to the crash site. I just needed a few more features to kind of give it a wilderness look, and I think it worked out really well, as you can see in some of these pictures. So here's the foam I had left over sitting in my garage from a previous project. I was trying to build an existing fort for a near future game, and I had all my dimensions wrong. I'm using the hand hot wire cutter from Proxxon, I believe, and it was just too small. So I got the ThermoCut 650 from Proxxon. So this cutter was just so much better for this project. It was able to get big chunks out of it because I knew I'd need a lot out of it before I finished. And once again, it was too light to glue to the board that I'm setting it on now. So that board I did not use, but I still used this foam. So you can see you can cut any direction with this thing. Every once in a while I have to stop and adjust the wire, tighten it up, and this is how it evolved. Felt like it looked good in the end. On to the next stage. As a side note, I used any extra foam that I cut off to build those stones in the previous part of this video. All right, so here's the hill. I feel like I've done this before, and I did, because my first attempt was a massive failure. This thing, which is the foam thing I made for the hill, I'm sure there's a technical term for it, crash site hill, this would not adhere to the board that I was using. So now I've got this cardboard, and I've used hot glue to kind of serve as two purposes. Hot glue to kind of give it some gradient or some texture, and then also to give it some strength. But I've also clamped it down. Now why? I'm using a lot of water, and cardboard doesn't stand up to water very well. It tends to warp. So what we're going to do in some fashion or another is paper towel down. Now these are textured cheap towels. I may have to fill in the edges with support here like that on the sides where I need them, mostly on these steep sides, kind of give it a more smoother look. So I've got a glue water mixture here, and I'm just gonna paint that on, This towel's wet with it. Give it a little support here. I'm using a method I learned from DM Scotty with paper towels, Elmer's glue, and a spray bottle with water in it. I smooth out the hill, make it look more natural, give it more of a smooth look. I'm using cheap paper towels, so there may be some texture shown through, but that's okay. It's table ready. So first you fill in any gaps that are immediate drops that don't look natural, and you put wet paper towels rolled up into those, and then paint over with water and glue. Then you use paper towels, drape them over, and spray more water and brush glue and water over top of it. Lesson learned from the first attempt was I just had too much water. So we are going to try our best to make it less wet. Layer it, and then after this, because I've put so much paper towels and all that stuff across it, you can spray paint. The foam will be covered up. I've done this before for another terrain, and maybe I'll throw a picture of it. It was a hill, a real simple hill, but it was a big hill. It was a big freaking hill, and it was for a fort. Talked about it before. It came out pretty good. I mean, I put sand on it, and I put some grass on it, and that's what I plan to do with this one. So that's why you see some sand still on this foam. Trial and error. I put the sand on first, thinking it was good, and I looked at it, I didn't like it, and then I was like, oh yeah, I've done the towel thing before. I like the way the towel thing looks, so I should have done that first. Kind of ad hoc crafting here. Much of it is done. There's enough glue on all of this that I can just lay some sand on it. So I'm just going to get a nice layer of Elmer's, water, mostly Elmer's now, and drop some sand on top of this. Hopefully it'll glue in a couple days. Well, clamp idea didn't work out because I didn't think about the sand, and I have to keep it in the middle of the table. Try moving it again. If that's going to make the sand get everywhere. There. Yeah. So until next time. All right. I'm in the middle of a massive mess here. I was thinking about ways to cover this up. Now, one way is to completely cover it up. Now, this is a piece of paper, and I'm going to use the template to cut my styrene. Then I looked at this, and this was easy enough. I used my pencil, put a piece of paper over it, and kind of did like a grave rubbing over it. And I had the shape right. Not happy with that. I'm thinking about covering just this part up. There's plenty of lip here that I could. So I measured the rectangle in the middle. This is not a perfect hexagon at all. Tried that, didn't work. So I'm going to cut a template there, and then I have 2 triangles. So that's what I'm doing now. Is I'm drawing out the triangles. I measured it best I could, and I think I've got it. So we're going to cut this triangle out, and all we need is one because I'm just using the template. All right, so we have the rectangle. Now we need 2 triangles. Oh, that's good. I'm happy with that. And then I'm going to make this docking bay. It's one of my bigger bits, but they'll match up, but I may Leave it as is. I mean, that'll work for me, but I'm definitely going to glue these in now. I do think that I'm going to need some supports for this. So what I'll do for supports to give it a little more is I'll put some woodies in here. I'll put some little popsicle sticks first and then lay them across the popsicle sticks. All right. All right, we got popsicle sticks. And now I'm going to just put one across there. I'm going to cut it here. Cut it there. In this case, cutting it with the clips would be just fine. E6000. Cut this as I can. And then one more. Okay, we got our supports in. That's pretty cool. I'm real happy with that. What I could do is put something in the middle of that. What if I take, so I've had these doors forever, but they don't match up like that. I want to kind of close them off with these, and I cut off the lips that tend to be there, or the lips they come with, and these will be underneath. So what I'm going to do is try to center these such a way. Yeah, I have no idea what I'm doing. All right, these are going to sit inside here. Somehow I've got to get these all together. Yeah, the only way I'm going to be able to do this is with the template. And I kind of have an idea of what it looks like, and I think it'll set in just fine. Close enough. But I've got to figure out what works best. See how that looks good. To bring these together. And this is where E6000 or Gorilla Glue really comes in handy, because I can move things around. Cool. This is me just making it up as I go, but I'm pretty happy with that. So we'll let that glue. I've got one end closed now. Okay, so until next time. All right, we're back to the spaceship crash site, and as you can see, I'm going to turn it. As I turn it, you can see that I've added 40K bits all over the place on this. I'm still going to do a couple more places, but I already started doing some damage. I wanted to complete that on camera. When we get the primer on there and I start painting it, it'll look a little more together. Added this part to the, what I call the bridge area. It has like a conning tower or whatever. And all this is a medicine bottle top, a soda bottle top, one of those apple sauce pops, and then these Squinkies. Children, when they were young, they had a ton of Squinkies, and I kept the bottom of the containers because these serve as full domes, full just about anything. Cover up bolts. That's what I got here. Cover up that bolt, and when I paint it over, it'll look even better. These are Jenga pieces of wood that I stuck up into the landing gear, glued them,
they're not meant to cut them and then measure them. Then I put some extra widgets I have as their guns. Put another gun here. I think my most favorite part is that, which is did on camera. It is pretty heavy now because we've got the bolt inside holding these two pieces apart. This is heavy because I bolted those guys together rather than glue them. We got some dowels here. It's coming along. My goal for now is to flip this over and see if we can do damage with the heat gun. Maybe with a knife, because what I'm going to do is melt these down and then pull them out like something exploded outwardly. It's an easy way to cool that down. Do some compressed air. I think it looks pretty good so far, and I think once I paint it with burn marks and all that, it's going to look like real damage. There you go. I'm pretty happy with that. Now, yeah, you can see the insides there. What I'm probably going to do, I can think about, just stick something down there and have wires come out. Wires and they look like conduits and stuff like that. So I may fill in with hot glue and then just have these wires kind of hanging out. It's one way of doing it, I guess. But anyway, big hole. Of course, that's going to be on the underside. My next goal is to actually cut this whole pot off. I'm also going to build, as you can see, put this on the one side. I have another one that I could put on the other side, but I'm not. The concept is there's going to be a lot of horrible damage down here. I'm actually going to go out in the bandsaw and just cut up here and then melt it again and have it frayed. Other one of these right here, I'm going to have on a scatter terrain, one of many. I haven't decided how many, but I'm going to create some scatter terrain that is just wreckage that has been burned out, and I have a ton. This stuff may add to that, and I'm just going to pile them up with some other bits and then just spray them black like they've been all burned up. Maybe use some sprues to kind of look like frames have been tore off. The other thing I want to do, I'm going to go ahead and do it. All right, I'm going to do it as an experiment. I'm just going to cut right into this and melt it out. Not perfect, but I think it'll work. Rash damage. I'm gonna go out to the bandsaw, cut this up, and maybe we'll film this. Now, the goal is have some kind of hole in there that I can stick other things up in there, like I said, conduits, wires, stuff like that. That will work. Big one is cutting this off, and I'm not ready to do that yet. Still got a few things I want to add to this and want to do more damage to it elsewhere. All right, done a little bit more damage. I think I did this one on camera, but I was messing around with new ways of doing it with this, and I've left this open to try on camera. I did a little work here and there, smooth this off so it didn't look so much like a Jenga block, but I'm not good enough at carving wood to make it look like something else, and I don't want to add too much more to it. I use these woody leftover stuff from the wood terrain to fill in the screws. It's kind of silly looking because there's no screws on this side, on the opposite side. But that's going to be the crash side, so I'm not too worried about it. I've got some conduit cables, an old PC mouse cable. It's going to go through these. take them apart. These are just kids' jewelry that my daughter had and she's gonna throw away. And I said I could probably use that. Now I've got another conning tower here that I put together that I'm going to use as scatter terrain. I'm going to damage this up. I'm going to have this on the side on some scatter terrain as just wreckage. And I'm going to just start gluing them all together into kind of random pieces. I've got some granny grid in case I need to really, like in this one, I might put that inside. If I can get it inside, just let it, depending on what I have hanging out of it. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and do some more damage and show you how I'm doing this. It's not perfect, but you know, it's pretty good. Got my heat gun. I got this off of Amazon heat tool. I mean, any one will do. It's hot. Be careful. And I got this from the dollar store, and all I do is heat it up and then kind of just bend it out. I got damage all over the place now. Got a nice little explosion hole on that side. I'm not really sure how much more damage I'm going to do. I can do more damage here, but that's going to take a Dremel, and I may just cut right up here and just tear it out. That's probably a good idea. And have cabling hanging out there. But my plan for cabling damage, so let's try to see what this looks like. Take that hole, and I'm going to take pieces of cable, and I've got some necklaces here that I've cut up that look, you know, like full texture to them. My old PC mouse extension cable I've used a lot for conduits and stuff. And a couple more cable looking things, wires and cables. So we got a hot glue gun. Okay, so I put the granny grade in there for, you know, extra points of interest or extra, you know, structural appearance, and then just started cutting wires to make it look like it damaged. And I'm looking at it, and it's a bit much, so that's better. And when you paint it, it's going to be covered in black. I'm going to keep it all black because it's burned out. On the other side, it's not as easy to put granny grade, but I am going to put cabling kind of hanging out of it, but not as much. Alright, so let that sit. That's the idea. Not unhappy with this. This ends up looking pretty good. I got more damage to do. Alright, so let's take some of these big wires. Okay. So I got these things, and these things will be scatter terrain. I got sand on them because I used them in a project. This project, as a matter of fact, it was a first failure for the crash site. Second attempt is sitting on my table. I'm going to work on that. And I got some work already done on, obviously, with the foam. Then I put it on this wood that was just too big and too, but on a smaller scale, this wood is really good. So it's not quite as flexible and won't cause issues. Already has sand on it. Cut off pieces of it, random pieces of it for wreckage. I will use random pieces. I got stuff all over the place. I've got to dig out, and I'm going to just create piles of burnt out wreckage or stuff that looks like it just exploded there. This being one of them. And that's the other damage I have to do. I have to cut. This is going to be laying on its side with maybe wire sticking out of it. I'll put more sand on this and then maybe some greenery. I've got another conning tower that I made that matches this, and what I'm going to do, that's going to show that it's going to rip it off. It's been ripped off because this whole thing's going to be off to the side once I get it cut, which I may do today. But this is going to get damaged up, and I'm trying to figure out a way to make it look like it ripped off of here. So what I'm thinking about doing is cutting that ring, this part of the medicine bottle top. Use the bandsaw and cut that, then damage it up and glue it down and make it look like it's been ripped off. Maybe even have cabling come off that. That actually would work. And maybe place this down and make it look like there was something underneath. Use the Mage Knight base as a washer rather than just wasting it. It was just sitting there. It's like, I could use that. And so this is going to be sitting on its side or something, or in a pile and up against the, something like that in a wreck. Scatter terrain. And I'm going to damage this up, maybe use the heat gun to put a scar right across this. Look like it's been ripped off. Okay, fresh off the last video. We're going to damage up this side here. Reasonably happy with that. I wanted to go ahead and make some wreckage terrain type stuff. I've got all kinds of stuff I could be accessing to, but right now I've got a small pile that I like to try to create in some fashion or another. So I'm going to take some model sprues, cut them up in random fashion, hopefully to disguise them somewhere or another. Then I got some parts left over from other builds. So what I'm going to do is just, and I've melted some of these to make them look dented, and I put a gradient or a granny grade on the back of this, and I was going to do some cabling just to hang out. And that's just, straws, sprues, beads, and other random parts I'm not going to use. I'll spray paint that up. This one I'm going to damage. I'm gonna go ahead and cut that ring off. All right, I didn't cut it perfectly, but that's okay. It doesn't hurt. So what I'll do is place this up here. Really should put like a hole. All right. Make that look less cut, more jagged. Get a little hole. That's where I'm gonna put some cabling. And take this, glue it to the top. Okay, got more stuff. So a lot like junk piles created, I've done before and learned how to do from Warlock. I think those are good. I'll probably make a fifth one. Till next time.
All right, I've done a lot of painting today. I've got everything, including the ship, primed, and I'll show that later. But I'll show the ship later. I'm going to do the terrain first, and what I'm doing, and at least I'm planning on doing, is this doesn't have to be completely clean. I'm going to paint the ground, and it doesn't have to be perfect because I'm going to spray paint back over the top of these in black. All of it, but I want to show that they're burnt and the ground is burnt. So I'm going to start with the ground color. I throw some grass on there, on the edges, and burn it with the spray paint, make it look burnt. Set these to the side, let them dry. As I put this under the light, I get to see other places that need a little bit more priming. It's still a little tacky in places. And you can see some paint, and I missed a spot on this one, pretty big. Yep, let's go back and paint a little bit more. I think the base spray paint that I'm going to use on top of this is an aircraft gray. I've used that before. And I've got a whole new bottle right here. It should cover the whole thing. And then I'll detail some of these other parts out. There's some places where I gotta repaint. It happens, it's a big paint, so there's some places. But it is definitely becoming more of a single unified piece of terrain.
a single unified ship that looks like it's had some better days. That's that. And the other piece, the crash site itself, which I know takes a little suspension of belief to believe that this is all there is to it, to the crash site, but I mean, it is a role-playing game. After all, I think it's fair to say that we can suspend a little belief and still appreciate the craft. So I'm going to use the rest of this brown on this and then set it aside. So. And that's it for now. I'll let this dry and do the next stage, which may be a black wash to give it a little darker feel and then some highlights, or dry brushes, but not sure. In the end, once it's all done, you do a spray paint along the middle to give it a burned look, and then I might do the edges with some greenery. We'll see.
Okay, wow, that was a long video, one of the longest I've done. Probably one of the biggest projects I've done for YouTube. So here are some pictures. I took some pictures on my dinner table, then I took some pictures at my playtest, as well as the convention game I ran it in. In the game pictures, you can see some other terrain like the Lightyear robots, pods, and the robots. Those were kind of the challenge when they arrived. They appreciated the immersive feel of the entire setup, and I think it was a successful game in both cases. Everybody said they had fun. So there you have it. Hope you liked. Like and follow for more.